Welcome to Progressive Alternative with Victor Monjaras. I'm Victor Monjaras, and basically, I'm catching up with all my video taking. Probably already broke that New Year's resolution to make a video every once a week, but obviously getting busy with the whole circumstances that we're facing with the virus crisis and helping out my father and basically family all around. Basically got pretty busy. And of course, something about my stimulus check, which I will be making a video later on. I can't really show off a lot of things, but hopefully later on I can really show off. But today, or at least at this video, because I'm kind of running out of ideas and nothing's really too much is happening around this world, and probably not going to review movies or much or any of that type of sort, though I have done like wrestling and maybe more rants around about grading my current leadership and just really hoping for a better future. But this one is basically all about my neighbor up the state, Oregon. They just had their election this past Tuesday. The DNC kind of sent me a text message about, oh yeah, our next biggest day of voting is June 2nd. It's like, well, wait, why are you ignoring Oregon? Why are you ignoring Hawaii, which actually just voted as of this Friday, at least around 11:15, 11:19, or 11:20 actually. But at this moment, basically, and it's just PM Pacific, and I think it's like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. over there for them there. So back in time. So yeah, basically the next day, basically what they're going to get like in the next hour, for them at least, they'll release the results. Most likely it's going to be Joe Biden that wins the presidential primary, and they don't vote on anything else, like their basically their congressional representative seats. Basically, that's basically the only thing on the ballot, at least for them. There's other races like their state county court or some city council races, but those will not be covered until August 4th or 3rd. I have to look at that. Yeah, again. But basically, the rest of the races is not. But in Oregon, Oregon basically had to also vote everything down the ballot. Actually, August 8th. That's August 8th for Hawaii. So, of course, Hawaii, basically, brief mention. Of course, all the Tulsi stuff here is because, she was from Hawaii. I think now she officially has moved to New Hampshire, even though she's actually staying right now in Hawaii, basically to give comfort to her constituents. Something some congressional members around here are not doing, especially a certain current incumbent that lives here. Oh, wait, he doesn't. He lives in Oak Grove. But enough about my own congressional representative powers, or of that aside. We'll focus on Oregon. Of course, Oregon had their past elections and actually was quite competitive. Even one race that is still determined. I'm mostly focused on the Democratic primary because, of course, as you can all see here, it's all Democratic stuff here in this Librium. And, of course, you would think that Oregon is all Democratic utopia. Well, it's actually not completely that essence because, of course, everything basically in the west side of Oregon is pretty liberal, and there is that east side of starting to become more conservative. It's kind of similar like in the state of Washington. And of course, they vote completely by mail. Oregon also completely voting by mail. Thank you, Governor Kate Brown and their Secretary of State. I cannot think of her name at the top of my head. Nope. There's a dude. Oh, which of course is actually the race that is actually going. That was actually a competitive race for a bit. Actually, let's start off with that race because there's three statewide political offices that were up for election, at least in the Democratic primary right now. Two of them were not uncontested. Tobias Reed for the state treasurer, Ellen Rosenblum for the attorney general. Both of them will be moving on and face their Republican counterparts, which basically should be quite handily well done, Kate Brown's name there is quite getting a little bit more popular from the last time I saw those posts, especially dealing with the crisis situation. Of course, not as high as the other ones that are like in the top three, which are actually quite compelling, especially both of the considering two of them are Republicans. Yes, I believe one of them is Larry Hogan, and the other one is. This was like a political poll, though, so definitely can change from time to time, and especially just only about the crisis itself. So, the Secretary of State position at first was contested by Ximena Fagan and Jamie McLeod Skinner and Mark Hass. Was kind of rooting for Skinner in this one to be a little bit more compelling story. None of these were very progressive. Like none of them were kind of rooting for ranked choice voting or trying to improve much more beyond the capacity of the Secretary of State position. But Mark Hess at first was basically behind by about 2 percentage points, like in somewhere like in the middle of the night around 9 p.m. And then basically came out with the lead and basically kept it. And basically then officially like yesterday night was confirmed that it was Mark Haas that basically will represent the Democratic side. And apparently, from what I was told, this is actually going to be one of those little bit of good contested races, especially with the whole concern about vote by mail. I basically read these stories from the Oregonian and some other news outlets, especially their own public radio stations. Basically learning, it's good to learn about your neighbors. Good to also help out there. Something that my sister might want to move up there. Maybe kind of being with her boyfriend and also being with her family and just it's good stuff. Good stuff. Especially just seeing how good their organizations and their schools are. Oh yeah, because it's the founder of Nike that's basically based around there. Now, of course, they have everything else around in California, because of course they do. And, of course, your congressional races. And this is something, or actually, you know what? Let's go with the United States Senate race, because it's just Jeff Markley, which he's very pretty popular up there, helping out both AOC, Bernie, and this is, and don't be confused with Ed Markey. He actually is the United States Senator for the state of Massachusetts. So hopefully that's not too much of a mix-up. He's quite progressive, and it's like, but it would be kind of nice if somebody would also run against him just to see what's the future holding like for the state of Oregon, and knowing that they could keep on improving and say that the Democratic parties always keep evolving with their environmental policies. And but Jeff Markley is just grade A, good guy. From many stories that I just hear, and of course, with some of my friends who've been able to go up to there and were able to meet up with Jeff Markley, were quite a good guy. Not the most outstanding guy, but definitely just enough where he's not a douchebag. Or at least he does everything he can to just improve every day that occurs, especially up in the highest seat in the legislative body federally. So we look at the congressional races, the House of Representative races. Now these actually do have a lot of competition. And we're going to start off with the one that apparently was in a blowout. Suzanne Bonamici, she's very popular up there. None of her other competitors, Amanda C.B., Ricky Bajaras, Heidi Benares, they all basically were single digits. None of them really had an edge or anything much more unique to their personalities to really take on such a popular incumbent who's a representative there, Suzanne. And although I think the Amanda CB could be a good future handoff, because Susan's been there for about a good 12 years in the congressional seat. Might be more. But again, pretty outstanding woman out there. The second congressional race, that's actually still a toss-up between Alex Spencer and Nikki Herdez. Both of them are not exactly the most progressive out there, and they definitely like to kind of take that tone of holding Trump accountable and just trying to have a public option for the healthcare circumstances. They're the best person with the progressive stance was basically Bernie's ideals is Chris Vogt, but he's like in third place with about less than 21% of the vote. So he's kind of most likely not going to get a Democratic nomination as they still continue to count. But in the Republican side, and of course I mentioned this because the second congressional district seat is actually the only Republican seat in Oregon's basically whole House of Representative seats out there. The retiring incumbent, who basically is retiring, Greg Walden, is basically out of the race, retiring, and so their Republican choice is Cliff Bentz. So we'll learn a lot more about how this race is going to be compelling because, of course, can this race be enough to overturn that seat, or will it be just more of the same where they don't raise enough money nationally to get that much attention, especially when their polling place is going to be like at 8. Will the races down in the Midwest, will that get more voters to go out there, flip the state, or whether it's going to be a stronghold for both Trump and Biden? Assumingly, of course, once we've had basically all set up there. Nothing's really finalized yet in these moments. And that's what, I love primaries about. I cover these. Third congressional district race. Earl Bullimauer, the incumbent, basically blows out, though not as much as Suzanne in this first. Albert Lee, who is basically running to the more of the left, or Bernie stances, and a little bit more against the military-industrial complex, really becoming so much more better. Albert Lee at least ended up with 16.5% of the vote. That's not nothing. At least that's something to benefit for the future, get himself a little bit more name recognition, maybe even maybe try again if Earl decides to retire, because he has also been there for a while, about a good 8 years, and I think he's got more legislative office holding there. Everyone else was basically single digits: Dane Wilcox, Charles Rad Bennett, and Matthew Davis. And so Albert Lee, maybe a possible future there. Especially like Dolly Canny, who ran for the 4th congressional race. Peter DeFalacio, who's also pretty popular, also around that realm of the AOC and Bernie's camp, and really trying to help out the environment, trying to get Medicare for all out there. But Dolly Canning, someone who can really get up there. She ended up with 15.2% of the vote. Be a little bit more positive, be a little bit more encouraging. That's the future of Oregon Democratic Party. Again, you want to keep on promoting that so you get young people to go out there to vote and have confidence in their leaders that they will do what is necessary to protect this planet and improve their lives. That's what you got to wake up to. And that's how you get those memberships. That's how you get the confidence there. The 5th congressional, Kurt Shadier, not the best Democrat out there. He kind of is a good militarization guy. Hey, not being really challenged that much. But at least the closest there was Marc Campion, who actually at the last 2 weeks was basically being endorsed by Roots Action, that basically takes on Warhawks such as Kurt Schauder, the incumbent, basically winning over Blair Reynolds, got 7.2% of the vote. Hopefully she gets a little bit, keeps continuing its political process. Every candidate out there, they want to keep on going, maybe get some more experience, maybe keep on being involved with the grassroots events, holding your public officials accountable, get your name recognition out there, be passionate about it, and have plans and have convictions in those plans. Marc Campion, who basically ran a little bit more, though was kind of a little bit unknown, but then Roots Action was able to uplift his message a lot more and to improve on that. Basically that is a lot of it. And is the Democratic Party of Oregon going to stay firm if they keep continuing to encourage basically candidates to run for different offices? Definitely having a governor that can be enough charismatic to let them know that this is not only to prevent or react, but to much more action to better live their lives out there, and especially good amount of their environment. It's kind of their selling point in Oregon, so you really got to take care of that. The Democratic Party looks amazing. Agree or disagree, like, share, subscribe. This has been Progressive Alternative with Victor Monjaras. I'm Victor Monjaras, and you have a wonderful rest of your weekends. Weekends, lovely, nailed it. I love that I did that. See you next time.